Hi everyone! We have a special guest to take us around today.
Welcome to Concord, Mass.
No, it wasn't Dan Kwan because he's a bit busy after the Oscars. But my good friend Han Lee, who's appeared in my videos, suggested that we visit Concord because of our shared love for American history and literature. Han used to be a banker in the Concord, Lexington area, but now works in Taiwan. So it's an absolute treat to find a place and time to meet an old friend. Let's go and get some lunch.
You can stay here. It's like a B&B, but one of the rooms is haunted.
For real?
Yes. It's considered one of the haunted places in Massachusetts.
The Colonial Inn was built over 300 years ago. An equivalent B&B in the UK will likely still be poorly lit with a strong musty smell. It's clean and very jolly here, so maybe that's what keeping the ghosts happy. Han and I had some clam chowder, quesadilla, fish lump cod cakes, root beer, and Indian pudding. Then we head to the first historic site. What are you, a tourist?
I'm a photog.
The Old Manse. The sign gave a great summary about the Old Manse, built by Reverend William Emerson in 1770. Its residents did help spark the revolution that brought American independence. And this Reverend Emerson was the grandfather of writer Ralph Waldo Emerson, who wrote his famous essay, Nature, right here. If you look at the surrounding, with no Wi-Fi or social media back in 1836, it makes sense that writer-philosophers in this neighborhood came up with a movement called Transcendentalism, believing in the goodness of people and nature when they are truly self-reliant. Although, another resident at the Old Manse, Nathaniel Hawthorne, went off to write The Scarlet Letter, which talks more about sin and atonement than reflecting upon simple living near a pond. The most well-known female writer in this area is, of course, Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women. Her home, the Orchard House, is now a museum. They were operating in shorter winter times, so we got there just as they were closing.
We won't stall. Thank you.
But they were so kind. They switched the lights back up and even gave the two of us a private tour. And I couldn't believe this surprise.
Today is her birthday? Yeah. Louisa's birthday and her father's birthday. They were actually born on the same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has this house been built?
The houses were constructed in 1650. Bronson renovated the property in 1857. So that's when the family moved in. If you look on this wall, you can see the ceiling is warped, sagging into the center beam. And even look at the window seats. Louisa nicknamed this house Apple Slump because everything was so saggy.
But it's still standing.
Yes. It's pretty amazing. And then you go over to Europe where the castles are still standing from like 14 something. So this was their parlor.
It's a very, very stately home, but at the same time you could really feel a lot of care and love being put into the decoration. Do a painting on your wall.
If you've read Little Women, you might be familiar with Rodrigo, the play at the beginning. So this was where that would happen, and the staircase in the corner would have been used by them to run upstairs and make costume changes. So this was Louisa May Alcott's bedroom. When her father was fixing up the house, he added a built-in desk for her. At the time, it was considered outrageous for a woman to possess a desk. They thought writing would destroy a woman's health. So the fact that her father was supportive in her writing pursuits was pretty progressive. There are a panel of flowers painted above the desk on the left-hand side. Those were again done when Louisa was recovering by May. She said she wanted to bring her fresh flowers every day, but she couldn't afford them. And these, of course, would last longer. So she painted those for Louisa.
They're very creative. Also, the owl. I saw yesterday at Harvard, at Gretel, they have an owl on one of the beams.
Yeah.
Symbol of wisdom.
Oh. If you want to see more of May's artwork, we're heading into her bedroom next, which is actually right around the corner.
Right around the corner. Oh, I see the panels here too, the flowers.
Yeah, there are more on the window frames.
It's almost as if she couldn't contain herself and everything has to be her canvas.
Also, her walls were less expensive than paper.
So the daughters have individual rooms, this is quite unusual.
Yeah. Lisa would have shared that room with her older sister Anna. They moved here in 1858, but 2 years later Anna got married and moved out, so she had the room all to herself. Beth had passed away at that point, and so May had this room all to herself.
Even if you go to King's and Queen's room, their beds are tiny.
Yeah. Once Louisa published Little Women, it flew off the shelves. It was very popular, so she made enough money to be able to send May over to Europe so she could study art. Here, they weren't letting women study art in depth, so over in Europe, they were allowing them to, inspect cadavers and understand anatomy, but that was not being practiced here in America. So May was able to go over to Europe and study and...
After seeing all the sisters' bedrooms, I begin to like May more than Louisa. And their father, Bronson, who was one of the Transcendentalists, was a visionary. Slow down the video for a moment and just look at his 58 general maxims for teaching.
So this was Bronson's study. He was very progressive. He would let children go outside and play. He invented recess, take them on field trips. He would ask them questions and hold conversations with his students instead of having them sit at a desk copying down facts on a slate for hours, which was the norm. I don't think we would have gotten Little Women without Bronson and Marmee.
Yeah.
And he definitely found solitude here in Concord, meeting friends like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. His whole life being considered like abnormal and kind of an outcast. Concord was their little hub.
Now, did they do any of the filming here?
2019 adaptation, directed by Greta Gerwig. Some of the scenes with Amy in the school were filmed up in that barn chapel-like building that you saw on the hill.
Okay.
That was Bronson's School of Philosophy. We definitely had film crews coming through and taking photographs of everything so they could recreate it. So Bronson opened a school of philosophy which was for adults. It was a summer conversational series and it actually opened in this study. But they had so many people that they had to open the windows so the overflow could sit out on the lawn. And then after that one summer they realized that they needed a bigger space. That's when the building on the hill was constructed. That opened in 1880. 8 years later, in 1888, Bronson passed away and it was closed in his honor.
Thank you so
much.
You're welcome.
It's a very nice place. If you'd like a house also in this New England pastel color, it'll only cost you a couple of $1 million. A sweeter deal might be the other New England tradition. apple cider. But... they're closed! This nice lady actually restarted the machines so we could sit outside with a cup of warm apple cider. Thank you so much. What's slightly ironic is finding this best of British store. Because next time, we'll head to Old Northbridge to see how the British Army was driven out in the American Revolutionary War.
April 19th, 1775. The countryside was alive with the news of a British Redcoat force, about 700 strong, marching toward Concord from Boston. As the Redcoats marched into town, Concord's minute and militia companies withdrew to the hills beyond the river.